input device, this output device, this. All right. Now Discord, am I doubling for you? Can you say anything in Discord? No, don't tell me that I don't hear anything on Discord. No, Andrew. Okay.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Breakthrough. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love
Breakthrough.
it.
We did it.
Okay, chat, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear Andrew? Is anything doubling? Okay, yes, I see yes. If anything goes wrong with the sound and everything, then we'll deal with that.
Try to adjust it as we can. Yeah. What's going on, dude?
Nothing much. Just learning how to be a sound design guy, because like people were like, oh my god, this intro, Georgie, so good. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then like first trouble ever with sound, and I instantly fall apart.
I've been going off of. Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I've been going off of your link, so I was amazed. I was telling my chat here that I don't know how I got it connected, and I got it working because I didn't even know what you sent me.
Yeah,
I've never done the collab cam.
It's actually pretty cool. It's actually quite good. Like it's surprisingly good. Like with Starsky, it worked perfectly. We even had the sound. I'm not sure why sound didn't go this time, because I changed zero settings since last time. Because for normal streaming or normal recording, I use OBS and I use the Streamlabs, well, for streaming. Anyway, completely irrelevant. Let's leave out the technical questions. Let's finally start our stream. We are just only 11 minutes too late. That's, I mean, that's fine.
On time for me.
That's pretty much
that's on time.
So, Andrew, very nice, very welcome to this. I think I needed to readjust the camera because I'm not in the center. But anyway, welcome to this. I don't even know how do we call this. How do we call this? Like a collab, like a random collab that we just thought about. We had this nice stream with Starsky, or you had stream with Starsky, or it was just Starsky stream.
We both have. We've both like tag teamed. I think like I've gotten them for a little bit. You get them for a little bit. You know what I mean? He just kind of shares his time between us.
Starsky. Ay. So many.
I think he's in the chat.
Oh yeah, I know. He's monitoring. He's recording everything that we're gonna, like, all the bad mouths. When the war is finally over, he's gonna make us pay for every single one of those.
Oh dear, he's gonna come calling. You got to pay the piper.
For sure. But yeah, so we're teaming up today just to kind of discuss war in Ukraine. You know, this is not my first kind of stream that I do with people and so on. And for the first time, the first kind of collabs that I did, some of them were offline. We would just record videos and whatnot, and they were more like an interview style. And something that I discovered is that I really freaking hate interview style discussions.
Dude, so do I. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I really feel really awkward. And it's like, you know, it's like, what's the question? And then it's like, okay. And then the next question. And I just feel that instead of like asking questions to each other, if you ever had any questions, like, I don't know what kind of preparation you did or not, why don't we twist it a little bit them and instead present them as a topic for discussion, and maybe start with your own position instead of asking a question, like kind of present it this way, and then we kind of flow from there. And I really hope.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I mean, I went into this with an open mind. Like you said, I hate interviews. So sometimes, I mean, I'm kind of more on like the media side of it. Like I try to do like a newsier type of stream, if that makes sense, but still but still be like myself. I'm not like a TV journalist, if that makes sense, or like somebody that's but like I try to, like when I talk to Starsky, I sometimes I wonder if he thinks I'm like, you know, interviewing him like, and it's serious, but I'm trying not to be like that at all. I'd much rather have it just be like an open discussion. But I mean my position right now with everything that's going on is, I mean, so many people are asking like when the Ukrainian counteroffensive is going to start. I mean, dude, that question comes all the time. It's just, and then obviously, you know, the Russian propaganda is just at an all-time high right now with the Pentagon leaks and just everything. So I just continue to remind my audience the counteroffensive will begin when it begins. Like you
Yeah.
will see Ukrainians moving into villages. The Ukrainian flag will be shown. We've already seen it. We've seen how
Yeah.
it goes, right? We're in
Exactly.
operational. Yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
No. I mean, like, I'm just like kind of saying that you, I don't even know how to say, like, hit the nail on the head, or like you're so much in this game that you already are reading my mind through these vibes of the internet. Because in my notes for today, like, what are we talking about? Like, what are the subjects that, like, you know? So I don't have to go out of the top of my head. But and like the first thing I outlined is like, okay, first segment we hard limited to 15 minutes, and it's a discussion about Ukrainian like counteroffensive, when is the war gonna end, and you know, all of these
Yeah.
topics that are being asked pretty much on every question, like every question, every interaction of you with your audience. I am pretty sure you had this asked, so there's like it's been answered so many times. So
It
completely
does.
agree.
I mean, it's probably. I mean, it's probably people that have the best of heart. They just want to see Ukraine win. You know what I mean? They want to see the Russians get destroyed because that's what the Russians have chosen at this point. It's not that people want to see. You know what I mean? It's not like people want to see human beings fighting each other. It's that Russia has chosen this path. They have chosen the path of aid to Ukraine, supporting Ukraine militarily because they don't want to pull their troops out of the borders, and that's that. So we're just really in that mode right now where we're just waiting for the counteroffensive to begin. We know Ukraine's been in a defensive status right now. They haven't been exposing their troops to offensives that would get them killed,
Yeah.
right? They've been doing the best they can, like I tell my stream, of just keeping it 10 toes in the trenches. None of us know what that is like. Even I was in the military, I served in the army, and I have no idea what it is like to pull security in a trench, right? Except for the little basic training that we did where you just got to check the block, but that's in training.
Yeah.
So Ukraine has been holding it down, right, all winter. They haven't taken nearly as many of the exponential amount of losses as Russia's taken in their offensive, right? Because Russia's been conducting an offensive this whole winter on one city, right? They got in some villages because they haven't been able to push Bakhmut, so they've been getting villages as a result of the losses, right? Because the other thing we've learned is that Russia can't do multiple things at once. They got to focus one little specific area now. We've gone from an entire invasion of Ukraine down to pushing Bakhmut. Are we into like the 9 months into the offensive on Bakhmut? So it's just patience, maintaining a good operational security, obviously. And yeah, I'd say now would be a good time to practice good resilience. That's what we were taught in the military, being resilient.
Absolutely, like the cold bloodiness is what's going to get us through, and pretty much that's majority of my job that's been for the last couple of months is just to keep people, you know, it's like it's fine, like, you know, it's just a phase. We're just getting over it, just be done with it, because I believe I have actually two things that to say. Like, first one is about Ukraine, second is about Russia, and the first one is that. We almost nearly forget that Ukraine ability to execute offensives is very closely tied to the amount of resources they're having. Let me just put it this way. If Ukraine would have resources like US, it would not hesitate to start offensive even like yesterday. Like, it wouldn't be a problem. You're just flying in a couple hundreds of jets and then just like pick up the smoking bones of your enemies and make some cool selfies with them. But Ukraine doesn't. And a lot of that hesitation why Ukraine is not starting the counteroffensive is the fact that flow of equipment and resources into Ukraine has been quite limited. And this is something we clearly forget, right? Because we are caught up in these discussions that, oh, there are this many tanks, there are this many infantry fighting vehicles, and so on. I want to remind everyone that just a couple of months ago, infantry fighting vehicles and tanks were not even on the table. It was not even discussed. Ukrainian troops were not even training on them. Like it was still like we were for a whole year. They fought not only with like their hands tied behind their back. It's like their couple of foot also tied in between each other, and it's like basically BDSM twister, like you can say it this way. So it's a little bit silly when people say like, well, why don't Ukraine like just crush Russia because there has been like so much vehicles like dedicated to Ukraine. Well, yes, on paper and like 2 months ago, it's in a scale of like trying to retrain the army, trying to train new troops, like because it's not like you need like a new squad or a new like a battalion. Like they need like thousands and thousands and thousands of new trained troops that also know how to interact with each other. So that's a one thing on the Ukrainian side, and also on the equipment supply side. It's not that West have been like supplying equipment in all of the available capacity from day one. We've been dropping and squeezing step by step, overcoming every Scholzing that is only possible.
Exactly. And go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just finish with Russian part, and then we'll talk. So with the Russian part, that what people say is like, okay, but we still see Russia attacking. Like, the argument is like, yeah, you say that Russia is so bad, but I still see Russia attacking. Well, I was not a military man when this war started. I am obviously not yet, but at least I read a lot about, I understand, like followed a lot, and kind of got into the loop. And what I understand, like the offensive, how are they executed, especially if we're talking like a strategic offensives, or at least like a big operational offensives, they're usually, like at least in the Russian doctrine, is that there is like one major strike point, and then there is plenty of minor strike points. Well, right now, Russia pretty much devolved into only having like one minor attack point, because we are discussing in a week's time what kind of building they took right now. Like it was my joke saying that like, oh, imagine if a discussion, if I would cover like some kind of tactical advances right now, then I would say like, okay, so Russians captured this street, and then next week I'm going to say, but they have been pushed back from this street, and then next week, oh, they captured this street again. And we're talking about a country of the size of Russia that was supposed to challenge NATO over like the time of 10 months, cannot even get over one relatively small city. So that's pretty much it. That for me, that just shows that like whatever Russia had is just gone. It's like gone.
It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Like I had mentioned, we've gone from the invasion of Ukraine to the offensive in Bakhmut, and it's the Russian propaganda and like their trolls will have you believing that the war in Ukraine is now like somehow just Bakhmut. And what happens in Bakhmut is like the deciding factor of the Ukraine war. But that's exactly what the Russian propaganda wanted. That's exactly why they've been putting all their resources to try to take Bakhmut. The same reason why they did Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, because they needed that win so badly, because it's such an alley-oop to their propaganda, because it does exactly what we think it does. What we're talking about is it shifts the focus of the invasion of Ukraine and all of Ukraine, right? We've gone from the 3 days to take the capital city to, are they going to take Bakhmut and then like, are they going to take it? Are they going to? Like, we don't know. Like, Ukraine's defending it. Right now, it's teetering. Russians are getting like you said, like a city street every other day. I'd say like a block, and then Ukraine would push them back, and then they'll bomb the building that they're in, and then they'll get pushed back again, and then they'll push back a city block or so. So it's very much condensed into what you had mentioned, where we're talking about city blocks and not like entire oblasts like we once were. But we'll be talking about entire oblasts when Ukraine launches their counteroffensive again. And the other thing you had mentioned with the military equipment, and I served in the military, so the military equipment is not infinite. I mean, you need resupply, you need maintenance on the equipment, that you can't run them into the ground. These 777 artillery pieces. I wasn't an artillerist, but I was a truck driver. I was on convoys. I did convoy security. So I mean, I was trained on weapon systems. I was trained on vehicles, and I mean, the military equipment is, you got to maintain it. You got to do 3 types of maintenance inspections a day, before, during, and after PMCS. on all equipment, from your weapon to the vehicles to the artillery pieces. It doesn't matter. Everything has a -10. Everything has a structure for how you have to maintain it. So like you had said, these weapon systems, I mean, Ukraine's getting like batches of them, and then it's not like, okay, here you go, Ukraine, good luck, right? They need to be sustained. Like they need to get a steady supply of those systems and the artillery, the munitions, so they can continue the offensives, because it's just not infinite. Like the supply batches that they are getting, and they are batches. It's not like they've just been getting how the propaganda wants to make it seem like Ukraine's just getting this infinite supply of aid that's just coming, and it's just a free flow of aid. Like it's ridiculous. It's insane, right? I mean, Ukraine has been getting aid, but it's not anything that it's being propagandized as. It's like the truth of that's in the middle of it all, right? It's like, is Ukraine receiving aid? Yes. Are they receiving the aid that they need? No, right? Are they the aid that they're asking for? No. So it's like you got to weave in the propaganda of it all too, and the BS that comes from so many different sides that are saying that this is a NATO war, a NATO proxy war. It's insane because like I tell my stream as a military member, and we shit on the Air Force a lot, the military, right? In the U.S. Army, we call them the chair force. I mean, we just shit on. It's just like banter between the branches, right? Between the military branches. Like it's just like the Coast Guard gets shit, for example, the Marines shit on everyone else, but we shit on the Marines. It's just how it works, right? But at the end of the day, like when a deployment and we got to get a job done, like we're gonna work together and get that job done. We work together with all types of branches. Like I had to work with the Air Force, for example, but the Air Force alone would handle the Russians in Ukraine. An A-10. A couple A-10 sweeps along that 40-mile long convoy that they had up there in northern Ukraine. Gone, right? Any of our air force would take care of the Russians. We wouldn't even need ground forces. Probably need ground forces to go in for the humanitarian effort if NATO really was fighting, right? Bring in the humanitarian forces in afterwards. But dude, it's insane. NATO capabilities and what we have here in the West for military power and what Ukraine is getting. They're getting hand-me-down weapon systems. The other thing is they're getting like our old shit too, Georgie. They're getting our old stuff. I'm glad that Ukraine is getting an Abrams system, right? They're getting.
Yeah, but it's going to be A1, right? It's not even going to be A2.
Yeah.
So
you know about it?
Yeah. I've heard, and it's like, oh yeah, but like we need to make the new M1A2s because like the old ones have the composite armor, and either it cannot be removed or it's like a very complex process that's taking like forever. And it's like, okay, let's just do the A1s. Was it M1? Yeah, it's everything was M1, but it's the end that changes. Yeah, let's just send A1s. It's going to be faster. So that's a little bit silly.
We are straight. Go ahead.
No. Like there was this. I've kind of dug up a little bit on it. About people saying that it's going to take like a year or so, and it's a confusion because they took the old date that was the delivery of M1A2s, like they make them again, and when US said that they will deliver instead M1A1s, they actually said the same date. So it's the journalists that kind of got stuff mixed up. Yeah. So the date of delivery of A1s was never announced.
Right. Yep, that's the one thing that I had seen too, because I had looked that up too. Like, when are the A1s arriving? And I had seen a couple reports about like summertime for it or whatever, but I don't know about that either. I would hope that the A1s can get there faster. I mean, we're literally sending our Cold War weapons, like our weapon systems, our Cold War era systems that we had built to fight Russia during the Cold War. Ukraine is getting those now. So, I mean, like the M113s, Ukraine's been using those to the maximum capabilities, but I'm going to let you know now, combat engineers hate the M113s in the U.S. Army. I mean, in a gunnery, we had to do a gunnery range, and we were in a Humvee. and we went against a combat engineer team in an M113 for gunnery range. You gotta hit a certain amount of targets, you get a score, and we ended up beating out the M113 because they were too slow to get to their targets fast enough. Because it's like you got to get to the targets, you got to do the thing, you got to say on the way, you got to do all this shit and fire and set, and you got to do all this stuff, and it's how you learn how to operate as like a team too at the same time, like with your gunner, your driver, your truck commander in there. But I mean, the M113, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But I mean, at the same time though, Ukraine has been showing us, even with these older weapon systems, that they're using them to their maximum capabilities, even beyond what their capabilities can do. I've seen some of the most amazing things with these systems now that we consider outdated, because the United States and Western countries spend so much money on our weapon systems, where we have, like, I showed my stream what the new Abrams looks like, and it looks like something from RoboCop or Terminator. Like the brand new the Abrams X is what it's called.
It's a what is potential, like it's not
you're right, prototypes.
But
But it's wild to see like where we're looking at though for our weapon systems, right, and how we're going to protect our country for what we're giving Ukraine. You know, it's like night and day, and that's what annoys me with the propaganda of it all, like NATO proxy war, United States fighting Russia, but we're number one, we're not, dude.
What
I wasn't. Yeah.
It was the funniest thing. There was this article. Oh my god, I remember it and I'm laughing so hard. It was like, oh, but did you know that like Russians are capturing Ukrainian equipment like Stingers or Javelins, and they're sending it to Iraq so they can reverse engineer. And I was like, seriously, dude, like Stinger. that's not exactly brand new technology, you know?
No. That's, dude, the Stinger. That was a game changer in the first Afghan war.
It still is. It still is.
Yeah, it still was, isn't it? Wasn't it amazing to see it be a game changer, not once but twice?
Oh my god, there are a couple of really juicy hits with those. Like there was this helicopter that I still remember. It was like kind of side shot, like a helicopter flying, and then like there was a missile that came in from the side, and it's like a big fireball. Oh, that was so good. That was very nice.
I can't believe Ukrainians have learned how to shoot cruise missiles down with Stingers.
That was something. Like I didn't know.
Wow.
But yes, it's a multi-layer defense where they have people that identify which directions the missiles are flying from, then towards which direction, and then they have posts with peoples with Stingers. I was like, what?
It's wild. I mean, it's like two stories. It's like, one, yes, the Western aid and the Western weapon systems have helped, definitely, but it's like, man, if those of us that want to see Ukraine win don't want this to carry on any longer. We want this to end so Ukrainian cities can stop being destroyed, civilians can stop being terrorized, because Russia doesn't respond by, I mean, it's like every time Ukraine launches a military operation, Russia responds by committing terrorism. Like Ukraine moving into Russian military positions, Russia, okay, let's bomb Lviv.
Yeah.
Like, what, dude? Like, that's pure terrorism. So we want to see this end soon. Like today would be great. Tomorrow, send Ukraine jets, F-16s, send them the Patriot system, more Patriot systems so they can defend their major cities. Send them long-range rockets, the ATACMS. I mean, I'm glad that they got the. What do you think of the ground-launched small-diameter bomb being sent, or what do you think of that?
I mean, everything good. Like anything, like, you know, any long-range capabilities is needed. So whether ground launched or whatnot, everything would be fine. Like, I obviously would like to have something that, like, ATACMS would be nice because it's a big boom. Ukraine really needs a big boom on one of the specific bridges. There was one, but, like, we need a second episode already. Like, it's kind of overdue. So, So ATACMS in that sense kind of packs a punch a little bit more than GLSDBs. GLSDBs, they're more of a... They're by the name, is a small diameter bomb. It's still like a major bomb because it's an air bomb. But if we're talking about destroying like a massive strategic bridge, then they're a little bit not for the task. So That's
They
kind of
have
my,
they
my
have it's like the trade away. I mean, they have the precision, right? Obviously, they can just go right to the target. They have longer range, but the level of destruction that they can carry out isn't as big as
yeah,
like the attackums, right?
yeah,
So, and I mean, Ukraine again will use it to the maximum capabilities. I'm hoping that they will use it with the counteroffensive and hit the rear targets and hit the rear Russian bases. So when we see the Ukrainians move into occupied territory, when the Russians retreat, because we know that that is going to happen, right? That
yeah.
there's the Russians have proven that. So when they retreat, they will have nothing to retreat to, right? They'll be using those long range, even if it is the GLSDB, hoping for the attackums. I mean,
Yeah.
Ukraine will still find effectiveness with it.
Yeah, it's kind of coming back to that, and I'm going to loop and close the topic here on the counteroffensive. Is that's when the counteroffensive is going to start, because we're going to know, because that's when Ukraine is going to start unleashing the artillery strikes. Like the day before, I'm pretty sure that's going to take around 24 hours, maybe less. The initial wave. It's going to be two things. It's going to be a massive artillery strike, so it's going to be all of these GLSDBs, JDAMs, everything. So it's just going to be like light up of Russian positions all across the front line on the south. And then secondly, it's going to be finally utilizing the drone army project that Ukraine has been working for a while now. They have been working on like a massive numbers of drones, like, and how to utilize them in like a cohesion formations, like massive strike forces. So those things are also being introducing, and this is not a major secret. It's been like kind of open source project, so it's a known thing. So that's gonna be the opening salvo for Ukraine. Like it's gonna just burn through the first whole line and first back line and so on of the whole southern front line. That's why I'm kind of certain that. But people say, "Oh, I've heard that there is like Ukrainians captured a couple of villages like at the south, that just like yesterday or so." And it's like, yes, it maybe is a prep, but until we see every area lighting up, it's just a prep.
Right. And I mean, I know more and more people get interested in the war as time has gone on, or maybe they weren't right. Maybe they weren't a part of the previous counteroffensives and just seen how it works. I mean, and it's been counteroffensives at different phases of the war, so it's not like it was just one time and like we're taking hopium from that and carrying it over. No, it's been 3 counteroffensives. This is the 4th one. So I agree with everything that you said. It's going to happen. It's going to just be like you had seen. I mean, Ukrainians will be moving into the villages, flags will be raised in city admin buildings and cities, right? I'm really hoping that it takes place in that southern region around Zaporizhia, so they split both of the effort. But again, we'll see how it all goes. But that's my only hope.
I read recently like an interesting critique of the Kharkiv counteroffensive. It was one of those moments when I usually just throw my hands up in the air. It's like, yes, that's the point, because it was a discussion with some of the, I believe it was a Ukrainian like ex-military or something, and he was saying, well, like I kind of studied the Kharkiv counteroffensive. And like I didn't find it that impressive. Ukrainians kind of just went in and they had a speed advantage, and Russian front line was kind of weak there. So like I think we just got lucky with that. And I'm like sitting there, it's like, no. Like, that's the point. It's like they analyzed where the enemy is weak, they utilized the weaknesses, they broke through, and executed a proper counteroffensive. That's the whole point. That's
not only that too, but they duped everybody. Yeah. They had tricked us all into thinking that they were going to launch the counteroffensive in Kherson, right? And then Russia moved their troops away from the Kharkiv and put them down in Kherson, and then bam, and the counteroffensive happened in the northeast. It was amazing. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be written in history books on how Ukraine did that specific counteroffensive, right?
That was something.
It was something, and that counteroffensive too. And we went over it, and I reminded my stream yesterday in the Kharkiv counteroffensive in the northeast. That one is at least 110 kilometers in length, and the fact that Ukraine in various spots continue, like you had said, they are liberating territories there, incremental, very not serious, right? Nothing like, but we talk about the incremental gains from the Russians in Bakhmut, right? Like same energy, But the Bakhmut offensive that Russia's carrying out is a little like 5 kilometers north to south, maybe, right? But you have Ukraine just to the north of that, 110 kilometers of counteroffensive space that Ukraine, yes, Russia is pushing into certain specific areas, but that's the massive terrain that Ukraine has pushed into Luhansk from Kharkiv, liberating territories. I mean, they're liberating territory around Bilohorivka. They haven't been able to get the rest of the village yet. At least that's not what I've seen. But they're getting more and more around that. They're setting up that's interesting too, because Svadova and Kreminna, the Ukrainians are setting something up there. They continue to push on that terrain and have been all winter. Yeah. And they've lost villages a little bit on Stepova I think it is Stepova Novoselivka. I don't have my map in front of me right now, but it's Novosilvetske, and to the northwest of Svadova, right? The Ukrainians have been liberating territories around that, which is huge because that is a major highway that Ukraine's going to be using to go right to Svadova. Right to it. And the more that they can get along that highway, the more that space they're going to be able to hold so they can carry out the counteroffensive on that city. Yeah. It's that counteroffensive. I talk about it every day. People forget about it for some reason, but that's still ongoing. That northeastern counteroffensive.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, and people say, it's like, well, yeah, like the South is a juicy target, but it might be at the north as well, and
it might be.
Yeah, mm-hmm. But let's drop it down. I'm pretty sure we can talk forever. There's too many aspects of this. I wanna answer the question because I see it's been spammed to me maybe about 15 times, and then we continue. So people are asking, who is making the final decision? Is it Zelensky or Zaluzhny? And the answer is very simple. Zelensky is a political leader, whereas Zaluzhny is a military leader in a country at war. Mm-hmm. So we need to just take conceptually what is the purpose of the military. And the purpose of the military is to execute on the political decisions of the country. So Zelensky says, we need political will, political decisions to have, a victory, for example. And then Zaluzhny presents him with a plan of how the victory is achieved. And then Zelensky says, this is how I want this. And then the command of the military takes over. So who has the final say? I don't really understand the question, right? Because military doesn't act on their own. They are always the executive power of the political will. But does Zelensky influence how the plans are executed? Like which strategic objectives they're holding, which cities, which positions? No, he doesn't. I don't know.
It's the same thing like in the West, like in our military. We refer to the president as the commander in chief, right? I mean, we have whoever the president is. I was in the military while both Obama and Trump are presidents, right? And so Obama's photo was at the very top of the chain of command because every single military building has the chain of command photos of who it is, so you know exactly who your chain of command is. And the president of the United States is always at the top, and it goes, and then the secretary of the army, the sergeant major, and it goes down and down, and then your command that and your commander, and it just disseminates down. So I mean, I'm more than certain that Zelensky's in the situation briefings and what's going on the ground. He's able to provide his input, but I'm judging based off of Zelensky's demeanor, because every leader can be different, but Zelensky is for sure listening to his commanders and what's going on the ground. There's no way he isn't, because if Zelensky was acting without listening to his commanders, it just doesn't add up with the logistics of everything that we've been seeing within the Ukraine war. Yeah, it's like you had mentioned, a military doesn't act on its own either, right? Like Zaluzhny's not just out there, telling, he's not out there running the show. Very much so, it's like a team effort. It's a team effort is the best way to put it, and how it works, right? Everyone's it's a command structure. Everyone answers to someone, but it's cohesive environment between who is at the top.
Yeah, and Zelensky has been quite consistent that he almost never interfered in the military operation at all. I believe the only one was the Bakhmut part, where he kind of put some political pressure onto it. Usually, he didn't even comment on like what are we holding, what are we giving away. He was just like, no. It's like, I'm not doing it. Like, so that's was. I actually even critiqued him a little bit for it. It was on my channel, like people's like, oh, why are you critiquing Zelensky? Are you dumb? And it's like, well, I'm going to critique anyone that I disagree with. That's my right. I'm going to tell
that was an interesting time, whether they were going to stay in Bakhmut or not, and the critiques, because that's because you had said that was the first time, because Zelensky only ever says like, thank yous, right? Thank you to the soldiers of this unit out here for defending this and that and that. He's never ever interjected and said we need to do this for a military. He's never done that. So, I mean, it's not. He's got to be very much involved in it, but he's very much listening to his commanders and his generals out there. It's a team effort.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is also like something that probably Starsky would answer its best. This is just not Ukrainian spirit. Like they don't really have a lot of this like top-down structures. A lot of things are discussed a lot, and while Zelensky, let me put it through, like he's a person that can enforce his will and so on. Like, so he can propose strong positions, but I believe he also is very much aware where he knows shit and where he doesn't know shit. That's also his very, very strong point. And when we're talking Bakhmut, then we had a specific multiple meetings between General Zaluzhny, lower ranking generals, and Zelensky, where they had basically a discussion about what to do with Bakhmut.
The way I've seen it is I've trusted the Ukrainian move now, right? The whatever Ukraine's decisions have been, the Ukrainians proved me wrong, because I was watching it at the start, and I was nervous of the Russians pushing into Kyiv, taking the capital city. Like all of our news media was pounding that, like all of it. Ukraine's gonna fall to Russia. Ukraine's gonna fall to Russia. Blah blah blah. Right? 3 days, like that was parroted everywhere. And watching it all play out, and then every phase of the war, seeing Ukraine prove everyone wrong and do the complete opposite of what is deemed what is going to happen, right? There's always a prophecy for what's going to happen for Ukraine at every phase of this. Like, this is what is going to happen, and it's like Ukraine's like, nah, f that. We're going to do something. We're going to do something else, and then they prove everyone wrong, and it's just wild. That I mean, I'm a believer in what Ukraine's decisions are. There's until Ukraine, like I tell my audience, because I'm honest with them too. Like when Russians have gains, I let them know. I'm not one of those that are just going to be like 100% all Ukraine wins, but as much as I'd want to be, I got to let them know when Russia does have successes, right? Because I got to report the honesty of it. But Ukraine hasn't proven us that they have done any bad decisions yet, and if they do, I'd let them know, and I'd be very critical of it. I'd be like, dang, Ukraine, you were doing so good, and now I don't know what's going on. But that day hasn't come. That day has not come, and I don't think it will. This next, like, I mean, we already touched on the whole counteroffensive portion of it all, but I mean, the Ukraine has proven us that they are capable, and more than capable, of the decisions and the decision-making processes of what they're doing, operational wise.
Oh, for sure. But there's a lot of issues in Ukrainian military, like in any military. And especially Ukrainian military that is now in a weird position that a lot with what they were training, this low intensity warfare that they had with the separatists over the, more like terrorists, like, because like it cannot be separatists if they're run by Russian government proxies. Proxies is a better word, I guess. So these proxies that in Donbas region, but it was low intensity warfare because of the more or less like ceasefire, because Putin was afraid of continuing war in 2014. And then we get this high intensity, basically only second to World War II war happening here, which is crazy, with a front line that can be stretched like through the whole Europe pretty much. It's kind of insane. It's kind of really, really insane. And I'm not sure if Ukrainians were expecting this and they were ready to this. And then you have your own small force, but then you need to basically multiply it to 5 from 250,000 active personnel. So now you get an intake of additional 750,000 plus thousand people that half of them don't remember how to hold a rifle or whatnot. And you need to organize it, you need to train it somehow, you need to dress it. It's just insane. It's just an insane.
And it goes to show you the differences between the Ukrainians and the Russians, right? Because we see the Mobiks and the Russians who are, I mean, it's I'm not gonna muddy the waters and say it's like the people of like the fucking like, dude, I went to a communist rally to see what the far left had to say about this all. Oh my god, dude, brain damage, dude, absolute brain damage. Because I had went to an anti-war rally because in the United States there's been anti-war rallies from the left and the right. Like we're in clown world over here. So I got absolute cancer at that event. Bring me back. I'm sorry. I got distracted. The communism just totally fucked me up. Bring me back. It's the effect.
We're going down the rabbit hole. We are sinking into that rabbit hole because I saw videos like when they're playing either communist anthem or something, and then they're bringing communist flag and like the American flag in, and then the flag of the DNR, LNR voice. It's bizarre.
It is very bizarre, but okay, I brought myself back. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked by communism there for a second. So we see the differences though between like the Russians who are taking, like, you know, thrown out. Some of them are volunteers in the PMCs, but either they're prisoners, whatever, you know, however they're thrown out there. That level of garbage that we're seeing out there, right? And how they just absolutely, I mean, they're just waiting for the Ukrainian loitering munitions to come. They've dug hidey holes in their trenches so they can, not only are they protected from a trench, but then they can try to get under there a little more to hide from the loitering munitions because that's all they can do. Right. I mean, they got the Wagner group in Bakhmut that's advancing, but they're being paid. Right. So they got like an extra advantage and they got their own little thing going on. They're a PMC. But then you see like the Ukrainians, right? And the Ukrainians that are told to, hey, you gotta defend the country, or they volunteer, for example, and they gotta go take up a rifle. And the quality of the Ukrainian soldier is just much higher than the Russian. Like if you compare like a Ukrainian that was previously a civilian, never military trained, and now they have to go defend the country, and a Vatnik that was just a Russian, a good Russian, and they now have to go and invade Ukraine, right? Comparing the two, it's Ukraine all day long. The Ukrainian soldier that it was like we consider like those types would be a reservist here. Someone that is a civilian and then they're a soldier, right? And then they become a soldier, but then they go back to civilian life and then they train 1 weekend a month, every 2 weeks a year. Same with National Guard. It's a similar type, but that the Ukrainian soldier, the quality there, and especially the training that they're receiving. I mean, shout out to the UK and the US too for our training for the Ukrainian soldiers and what they're going through. Combined arms training is huge. Learning that, which the Russians absolutely have no idea what that means, right? No. Combined arms training, which the Ukrainians are going to be able to apply this knowledge with the infantry fighting vehicles, the main battle tanks. Plus, they've already kind of been doing it. Ukrainians have already kind of been doing their own little combined arms with the hand-me-down systems that they've had. With the M113s and the Humvees, or in the, you know, any little systems that they've had, but now they're going to have a whole bunch more. Regardless, the trainings that Ukrainians have been receiving, just go, they're showing it out on the battlefield, and no, it's not perfect, right? The information still, I mean, we see reports from Ukrainian soldiers on the ground who don't agree with every decision being made by the chain of command, and that's normal. I mean, that's when I was in the military too. There's so many times where we'd be like, dude, what are they talking about? Or like, what are they doing? This is stupid, right? Constantly, like chain of command decisions. But I mean, that's all that all just takes place of it all. I mean, that's just all part of it. That's just everyday life as a soldier. There's going to be times where you don't agree with every decision by your chain of command. It's just based on the grand scheme of it, and is Ukraine having a successful war with the strategy that they have been employing? And so far, I'd say that they have, and I don't have any reason to question the decision making yet.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely agree. Like, I don't even have anything to add, but I think it's a very nice tradition transition to the next topic that I have on my list of topics that really cool to talk about. Is the
Mm.
Russian new type of mobilization? I'll talk about that. But first, like with regards to chain of command, I believe it was I was watching this series called Generation Kill,
Ah,
and there was a scene where like some, I believe it was a lieutenant or something, that requested like an airstrike basically on top of their own troops, and
yeah.
that was basically like he was like at that moment questioned like, are you sure about that? Like, are you
Yeah.
sure that you want to do this? And it's like, yes, yes,
Mhm.
call in. And then it's like, no, there's not going to be an airstrike because like they know that we're here or something.
Literally, police that mustache. Sorry. Have you seen that? Have you seen the
Oh, but
show?
it was so good. It was so good
It
because like
was
it was actually explained why he fuck up to them, because he says like, okay, if the troops have nothing to do, I'm gonna police the shit out of them just so they worry about like, something, just so they don't have like time to slack or some stuff like that,
literally.
or like Russians drink some vodka. Like that's the sergeant. That's the sergeant corps that Russia is missing.
Yeah,
No,
they
they
don't
can
have NCOs. They don't have
no.
NCOs. They put all their officers out on the front lines. Generals out there. That is unheard of. Ain't no way. There is no way in hell
There's so
in
many
Western
generals dead.
military. Dude, there's no way that I would be because I was a lower enlisted. I was never an officer, but I was an NCO. I got out of the military as a sergeant, so I was an NCO. But there's no way, even I'd be out there in a trench or out there in a fighting position with a general next to me,
Yeah,
and he's in the same situation as I am. That's unheard of, and not gonna happen. Not
yeah,
unless like I can only maybe imagine if like a base is being overrun. But even then, they would probably airlift the general out of there,
yeah.
right, and get
Th-
him out of the situation.
this is something that Perun very very nicely tackled. I'm not sure if you're watching Perun.
Mm. Oh,
It's
dude, very
probably
good,
one of
very
the
good,
best content on YouTube with regards to war in general and so on.
very yes,
Uh,
very.
yeah, super, can only recommend. But yes, he covered this concept of ranyo inside of the
Mm.
Russian military, and it's basically when a person wants to like kind of explain the situation that he's having as not as bad as it would seem, because loyalty and ability to execute orders is more valued than, for example, losses that are incurred or any kind of reality. So for example, if you have 3 tanks that are running and 5 tanks that are not running, you can just say, I have 5 tanks and they're ready to run.
Mhm.
And for that you get, good job, here's another medal for you or whatnot.
Yeah.
And no one is going to check those tanks, as an example. And that goes the same way over the chain of command. It's like a broken phone, and it just becomes larger and larger and larger. So generals, they literally need to go down from their cushions where they would otherwise, make these strategic decisions. They need to really go down to the basic tactical level to even understand what is the situation on the ground. Just because everyone else under them is just lying to them. That's it.
And it builds it's like a way. Having NCOs, number one, it's the backbone of your military, right? It's like it's like the connection to the officers who traditionally hold more of a political role. I mean, they like politic the unit, for example. They are in the background, in the office doing decisions there. I mean, we had good. I mean, I was active duty military, so our commander would get out there with us, and he was like ex-infantry, and he was also like Starsky, who I'm more than sure is an amazing commander, because again, he was a ex-NCO. He used to be in the infantry, and he was a sergeant first. Then those are the best types of officers. So they're not all like political type of leaders, but a lot of them are. But having NCOs though, and having sergeants, and that leader that is going to be out there with you in the trench, and he's out there with the shirt off doing work with you. Not all sergeants. I mean, when you start getting up into the higher sergeant ranks, you kind of get a little politicky, but I mean, as E5s, E6s, E7s, those are your like regular sergeants, sergeant first class, staff sergeants. They're out there with you. I mean, they're the ones on the radio calling to the officers. They're like the line right to the chain of command, and they're also in there with you. So they're like they become your, I mean, kind of like a parental figure over you as like a lower enlisted. I remember when I was like a 19-year-old when I joined the military, and like my NCOs were kind of like my freaking uncle or like my dad type, like a father figure-ish type. I didn't know
Yeah.
what the hell was going on. I didn't know how to do anything. I was like a newborn baby when I joined the military. Here I am, and like they had to mold me into something. But it's so huge, and the differences too, like you had said, night and day between having that echelon and having NCOs, having those out there with you, and just having officers at, and again in Russia's on Russia's side, they're out there with a gun to your head. You run at that Ukrainian position, or you're gonna die. Like that's how they run their military, and it's just not gonna work. Not gonna work at all.
For sure. For sure. And I want to just quickly address, firstly, thank you to everyone that is watching the stream. Please, if you haven't followed and subscribed to Mercado Media, please subscribe to Andrew's channel. It's amazing. I watch it sometime when I have the time. Like streams is sometimes hard for me, but and when I have the time, I do watch it, and it's really nice. Secondly, I see a lot of super chats, guys. I propose we address super chats around the end part of the stream, just because super chats are being recorded in a separate section on the YouTube backbone. I don't know, like back office, whatever. So there is a separate list of super chats, so we'll be able to answer it at the end of the stream if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't. We'll have to go over yours. Thank you guys again, and also please make sure you subscribe to Ukraine Matters. I've watched most of your videos. Actually, you do amazing analysis of maps. So if you guys want to watch a highly intelligent breakdown of maps and analysis of what Ukraine's doing, please subscribe to Ukraine Matters. I added his YouTube channel in the title, so it's easy. You just got to click on it, bam, subscribe. Make sure you have your notification bell on for his channel. So thank you again.
The mandatory plugs are done. Thank you, Ali.
Mandatory plugs.
Thank you, Ali, for sharing the link. That's very amazing. But the topic of Russian mobilization, I'm going to take over just a little bit. So I'm going to explain a little bit how Russian mobilization was working. Not mobilization, but Russian recruitment was working before. So in the Soviet Union, and for the most part in Russia, they had the concept of повестка, which is basically a message of request for people to come into the recruitment office and where they would join the military. Over multiple decades of this process existing, many people found out how to hack this process because the process was requiring that the recruitment office would take this piece of paper, the message, and they needed to find the person that is called in person. The person need to receive that message in hand and then sign off by that he has received it. There was multiple hacks around it because like if you don't receive it, if you don't take it, you get a fine. But like getting a fine and getting into recruitment office, different things. Last week, in a super fast format, Russians accepted something that all media, especially in the West, got wrong. Because what the media in the West has reported is now that Russia has accepted the law of electronic invitations, which by the description of the Western media says that, oh, now the invitations to come to the military office are not delivered in hand to person. They are instead delivered electronically. That is, however, not true, because what happened instead is just, red herring. Because what Russia did is that they removed completely the whole practice of invitations, because they removed the interaction of the person that's being invited to come to the military office. Right now, Russians recruitment office just have a list of people that can be potentially invited to the military. They formally send the message via email, like to their official account, and then like a tick mark appears on that name on the list with a date. 7 days after that date, that person is counted as essentially fugitive from the recruitment. So he gets reduction in ability to move around. He cannot drive vehicle. He cannot move abroad. He cannot use some of the bank features. So he's severely hindered as a person inside of Russia. So that means, oh, and also like technically he's also like escaping enlistment. So he can be charged technically with criminal procedure. That means that the person like can be in coma, like for what they say. But if they send a message and that person doesn't respond or doesn't see the message, it doesn't matter. So the messages, they stop existing as something. They just say, we want this guy, we put a date on it, and then if 7 days he's not appearing, that means only one thing, that he is just a fugitive and he can be caught, he can be put in jail, whatnot. So essentially we can hinder human rights until he agrees to come to essentially, well, enlist. That's kind of the whole point. And that was something that a lot of Western media got wrong, because they were focused so much on the electronic part that they completely missed that it's like, it doesn't matter if it's electronic or not. It's just like, it doesn't exist anymore.
So now I'm just gonna respond to that with a couple questions for you, because I think you would be more educated on this. But this type of coercion that Russia does, and I think that's probably the best word to use, is coercion of how they get their citizens, how they get them to do things that they want them to. But this isn't the first time, even though this is like more on the electronic side of things. But Russia does this constantly for how they need things to get done. Correct, with cornering their people. And making them do things by taking things away, or getting them into the military, for example. I saw one report about their pensions and their how they're employed, and they won't be able to work if they don't register for the military, right, or like enlist into the military. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the coercion of it, and how Russians are coerced.
Sure, because like that's a kind of follow up from the Soviet system, but it has taken a lot more central role inside of Russia. I believe it was starting after the first Chechen war, because it was like a big kind of reflection moment for them. But overall, basically the Russian Institute of Recruitment Office is central to a lot of life of a person inside Russia. Like basically, when a kid is like even not born, when a first scan is done, like a good parent in Russia would do, when a first scan of your child is done about, and then you find out that it's a male, well, at least in Russian terms. Let's not get into that discussion, please. It's too long. But when it finds out that it's a guy that can be recruited into the army because of reasons, then at that moment, good Russian parent would start searching, like recording everything about him. Every time he sneezed, every time he went to doctor, every time he broke his arm, every time he scraped his knee. Everything.
Holy cow, like dude!
Super like medical history, like the size of like a thick fist book, like a good War and Peace essentially novel. And by the time that he turns, I believe it was 19 or 18, when they're at the recruitment age, the person, once he must go to the commission, from a good parent, that person would essentially receive a present. When in US, people are preparing their kids for college, so they're saving up money for kids to go to college sometimes. Well, in the same way, in Russia, people are gathering the medical history of their kids just so they don't have to go to army, because they have every imaginable sickness on the planet, just to kind of escape the recruitment in the army. Because Russian military recruitment in the army, while technically they are stated that these people have been participating in the army, and that's why when they say, okay, when the war starts, we're going to call in the people that were already in the military, and therefore it's the people with experience. But Russian military, especially in the peacetime some time ago, was nothing of the sort. It would be just guys coming for a year of their life to waste a year in their life in the military, where they would have to do some very useful things. For example, paint the grass green, or like break big rocks into small rocks. Or stand night guard because reasons. And also, like, they would show you what Kalashnikov looks like. You would be able to maybe fire one whole magazine during your whole rotation of a year. And that was it. That was Russian training for the called-in personnel. But once they're out of the army, they are considered reserve. So they spent this year of doing nothing, but now, they've been in the military, now they are our reserve. And that's why a lot of people try to escape this part, because it's a waste of a year and so whatnot. But this created a lot of the people that said, okay, whatever, and I'm just going to go and going to spend a year there and fuck it. But now, these people who are being called into the Russian military because they have experience. There we go. That's
just kind of... It's just so they can use them again at a later time, right? Dang. So they start keeping wow. So you got to start your medical jacket at a young age to keep your kids off of the Kremlin's hands, huh? Keep the Kremlin's grubby fingers off them.
Unless you have a small oil company or like a
small fortune.
Yeah, like a small fortune, then yes, like, because money still buys you pretty much anything in Russia.
People in my chat are saying experience. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's in theory. In theory, they're supposed to, right?
Yeah, and
they hold. But
correct. And this is basically what they're trying to do with the new system, because they're doing they tried mobilization. It was terrible. It was complete disaster for them. One of the major aspects of that disaster with the mobilization that happened was the aspect of logistics, because there was this part that the recruitment office needed to basically run and chase every person. They had a lot of issues. So they had police chasing people and whatnot. That's not a very good optics for Putin. Remember, he has very low self-esteem. He's a very cowardly person. He really is worried about like his percentage point of perception inside of the Russian society. So because Russia is a pretend state, like they're trying to pretend about everything. They're trying to pretend that Putin is popular. They're trying to pretend that Putin is loved. They're trying to pretend that they're a democracy, whatnot.
They're a developing country.
Developing my ass. So with this new setup, basically they say, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a voluntary contract army. That's Putin's great plan for this coming year. So he says, I want essentially people to come and volunteer for the Russian military. Well, how do we do this? And the answer is like a complete marketing trick, like get more essentially asses in the chairs, and we're going to increase our conversion rate. If we get more people and we have a conversion rate of X, then just the fact that we have more people coming, the more people we're going to have in the military. So if they're able to persuade people either by salary or by pressure to sign a contract with the Russian military, they will technically count as volunteer. And then mobilization can be escaped.
I think this is why Russia wants like AI so bad and like loves that. Like, they've been all over the AI generated photos. I think they really want humans to become like a cyberpunk type humanoid where they can just program people to do what they need to do, because the human factor here and what they want to happen and how they're designing their country and then how their people are carrying out the will of the Kremlin are two different stories. And it's the way that Russia's running its country. I mean, I think that the invasion of Ukraine was the final decision that the country made, now that they're teetering into their demise. But seeing what worries me beyond that is the simping of that type of ideology and wanting what Russia, like kind of like the idea of Vladimir Putin and the rule over he has over Russia and how Russia carries itself. that's some of that ideology is festering here in the West, and politicians are repeating it, they're regurgitating it, and they have power over like someone like me. Even though I did serve the country and I did my time for Uncle Sam, these politicians, they still have power over me. I can't escape it. So I'm kind of worried as someone over here in the West that is seeing this Putinism, this type of how Russia operates and their ideology is being repeated and regurgitated here in the West in certain countries.
Yeah, and that's a big. It's been a big kind of like red thread topic throughout my channel. I'm gonna now probably say something that like a lot of people like that watch me for a long time. They're gonna be, oh my god, not again. And that's that. It's a long discussion, long yearned question, philosophical question of should tolerant societies tolerate intolerance? And my answer has been very clear for always, that the answer is no, that we need to draw a line, because democracies and free, especially liberal democracies where we have freedom of speech, where we have the ability to act, they are not natural. Naturally, a lot of countries are drifting more towards the authoritarian state of existence. Like, I know that countries are not beings, but just generally societies find it simpler to emphasize with a leader, charismatic or just powerful leader, rather than having this complex system of checks and balances like democracy. The fact that democracy works and has persisted is incredible. But this also means that the natural kind of drift of things is the deconstruction of democracies. And this is something that a lot of people inside of democracies are maybe aware, but not on the active awareness thing. They think that like, oh, I will see when it's coming, in that sense. Like, I will be able to act like, oh, because they think it's going to be some kind of a big event when like, like a army of authoritarians will just roll into the country and then put the red flags with some weird symbols on them, and then they're like, oh, whoa, we're not democracy. No, I'm gonna fight now.
Right.
No, but the process is like, it's just eroding slowly, step by step, by allowing people to spout nonsense, by allowing people to poison politicians, to poison parts of society. And if democracies don't protect themselves, don't protect their integrity, that creates a huge platform for that erosion to happen. Like, and that's like, I mean, US has been walking a couple of very, 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 very close calls in the last couple of years, like at least as a perspective from Europe. I'm not going to get into US politics. Right. People are very pissed whenever I get into US politics.
Oh, dude, same. I'm in US and they get pissed when I do it. I can't talk about US politics. I live in the country and I can't talk about it, dude. It sucks. What do you think? More Europe. Thankfully, I have such a European audience where they kind of are like, shut up, let them talk about it. So like I can talk about it, but yeah, it's tough. It sucks, but that's why I brought it up. I wanted to hear your perspective on it, because it is definitely it's taking hold. And like you had said, it's not going to be like an announcement. It's not going to be like all right, the authoritarians are here and like they're going to like, we have to battle them now. Like it's good. It's like a slow burn, and it's a slow festering process. And it started already in some of our Western countries, unfortunately. And I just hope that, we overcome, and I hope that more people see it for what it is, because it's possible. Clearly. I mean, we have so many people that I know that tune into my streams, and I'm able to talk about the geopolitics of it a little bit when I can. I try not to, because again, so many people are like, stop. Like last night I played a excerpt of Tucker Carlson's opinions, and people were like raging in the chat. They were like crying. So, but I'm like, but for me, it's like, this is like counterintelligence, because that is, because like I show them, I try to get them to understand that this is where narratives are driven. This is where narratives are curated, and how people have such these toasty beliefs, and how somebody can have an opinion that is contradictory to what someone that just has common sense can see. And you know what I mean? Like, how
Yeah.
is it so possible to have such a belief and wild created opinions when the narrative, like the truth is so easy to is there in your face? And I show them. I'm like, here's why. Here is how. Right? And people do hate it, but I think it's important to talk about. I think as much as like the importance of obviously the what's going on in Ukraine and the battles that are taking place and where the territorial changes are. And because I was in the military, I can talk about that all day. I can talk about strategy. I can talk about that nonstop. But I think that the reaction to it and seeing how people that do have power over us and how they're talking about Ukraine, whether it be the aid for Ukraine and how we should continue, or and some people are saying that we should stop the aid for Ukraine. And then you ask, okay, why should we stop the aid for Ukraine? And then they come up with all these opinions. And then you say, well, no, right? And you correct them on it. And then they say, oh, well, it's just an aid. You know what I mean? They just fall back into talking points. So that is why I try to show the people like how these types of ideologies are being festered here in the West. And it's a lot of times through media, through pundits and people that provide these narratives, holding water for the government, that like Russia, the Kremlin, for example, and what they're trying to do. And these people with platforms, podcasts, whatever, that are regurgitating this junk, and then politicians are then regurgitating it, right? And then the politicians, they hold the power over us, right? They draft the laws. They're the ones that'll vote on the aid to Ukraine, right? They're the ones. It's not. We can do what we can and do fundraisers and support Ukraine organizations. Talk about the Ukraine war, keep it in our consciousness and at the forefront of our conversations, so we make sure that Ukraine is not forgotten, because in this day and age, so much news and stuff is happening that somebody that's just involved in news can forget about Ukraine because they're so involved in what's going on. So we got to do that. But it's important to note the politicians that are the ones that are voting on the aid that Ukraine is directly receiving through military power. They're the ones that are doing that. And if they're not supportive of Ukraine, I think it's important to investigate why, right? Politicians. And that's just how I see it. What are the root causes of it?
Yeah. Was it Bo that covered recently about like, and we're transitioning to the next spicy topic. I'll need to find like a very nice transition edge. But I think it was Bo of the Fifth Column that discussed it recently about the American personnel that is.
I'm glad that you watch Bo. I'm glad that you watch him. He's so good. I watch him too.
Amazing. He's so amazing.
He's so simple. He's just like that's what his draw is. His channel is so good because it's like it's just simple terms. Like
I honestly got inspired from him so much. Like my chat introduced me to him, and I had trouble googling it because I don't know how the name was written. Like I acknowledge. So that was my problem. But when I was able to finally find him, like I think he has one of the healthiest commentaries, right? Because he's like, and I got inspired a lot. Like he's not really pretending, he's giving his opinion and whatnot. Like you might like it, you might dislike it, whatnot, but like he's giving it how it is, and that's just excellent, and I love it. So it's just very enjoyable to watch, and gives me a lot of insights about a lot of the U.S. kitchen, what's happening, especially on the news and whatnot. But the point that I wanted to transition is the leaks, and that's when Bo was talking about the personnel that was in the leaks, that there is U.S. personnel in Ukraine, and he was saying, well, remember like a half a year ago, there was like an outcry from a certain group that said that we need to find out how Ukraine is spending their weapons and how much they're selling on the black market.
Yes, bro. Yes. Yes.
Well,
yes, the same people.
It's the same. It's the same people now. And it's like, why is there personnel inside of Ukraine?
Oh my God. And it's like you can see it in real time. Like we have it documented. I mean, anyone that is interested, you can go back on your videos, my streams, and even Bo, like you said, Bo, the Fifth Column. We've all talked about it how they were like, we like that was the big concern with the initial aid packages, where how are we going to have oversight over the weapons going to Ukraine? Ukraine is just going to be and this is what they say, not me. Ukraine's a corrupt country. They're just going to be, the weapons are just going to be going everywhere, blah blah blah, right? So we have NATO and US fucking weapons inspectors there to make sure that the weapons are going to where they're supposed to, and they're like, they lied. US involvement in Ukraine, like, dude.
Yeah. I was laughing the most because like it was the like the Russian propaganda. It's not the Western Russian, but the actual Russian, and that was that like, oh, we're actually fighting the black Polish NATO mercenaries here in Ukraine. There's like thousands of them, and then like there's a released like a list of people that are inside of Ukraine. And it was like barely like a couple of like 1,000 or something. It's hilarious.
How about the narrative that was taken too? And I think this is why, I mean, obviously from being in I was in the military, so I had a secret security clearance, and I talked about this on my stream last night. But the process is, when like if you're going to hold a secret security clearance, I was a 88 mic truck driver, right? So I had to hold one because I was transporting sensitive materials sometimes, like ammunition. Like we would deliver Patriot missiles to you know what I mean, to a spot somewhere, and we had to go from point A to point B. And holding a trip ticket, giving the information of what that was, is sensitive information. So I have to have a secret security clearance for that. It's just how it works. And I was 19 years old, little 19-year-olds old. I think I was 100. How they're trying to make this kid like he's like a nobody, but he was in a cyber intelligence unit, and like that's literally what they do. And he's also a full-time. Even though he was National Guard, he held Title 10, which means you are full-time. Even though you're National Guard, so you would usually be the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year. But this dude was a full-time active. He was active duty considered, and he was handling this information. So like they try to make it seem like it was impossible for this dude to be getting this information. I might be jumping ahead because this topic has just been in my brain, and I went into it so in depth last night, and the reaction to it and the hypocrisy from the people that have been so against Ukraine in general, right? And that's the process of it. They muddy the waters of it all, right? The propagandists and the people that are taking this leak as if they've been lied to, or as if people are being lied to about the Ukraine war. That's really what it is. And it's also an alley-oop for the Russian propaganda too, because then they can say, oh wow, look at Americans are confused about what's going on with the war in Ukraine. Why is America even aiding Ukraine? Like that's basically what it is. And it's just exhausting. I mean, I don't know how about you. I get exhausted with it a little bit.
I mean,
going through it all.
I kind of get used to like the information flow already. So I like meta discussions very rarely interest me. Like I'm very rarely follow like some kind of meta discussions about the topic, because usually it's always a shitstorm. I'd rather watch some I don't know, bomb drops videos. That always kind of makes me calmer. But
I guess that's what I need. Maybe I need to. I don't know. My brain just is geared towards that stuff because I don't even know why. You know what I mean? I don't know why. Maybe because you know what it is. I don't be real about it. That and I gotta. Well, yes, I deeply care, but I was involved in all of it. I'm gonna be real, and I told my stream I'm before 2020, prior to 2020, I voted for Trump in 2016. I was a right winger. I was in that. I was a Fox News watcher. I watched Tucker. I watched all of it, and I was in that. And then when 2020 happened, and I took myself into a situation because we had riots and stuff going on here, and I had went out there and seen it for myself. And then when I had seen all of the people and sources that I used to watch and I was involved in, because I was in that world, and I saw how they were lying about it, because I was seeing it with my own eyes now at that point. You know what I mean? There's no media fucking filter or anything over me. I'm there myself. And not only that, but I am live streaming it. So and that's how I got my platform started, because I was out there streaming. Like I was showing people, because I was like, all right, fuck the media, because I was on that still, and I still am. But I want to, not only that, but I want to go and see and show people like what is going on. And so it kind of broke me down at the same time because like this world that I was once in, like because I was in the right wing Fox News world that I thought was what life was, slowly or very quickly, I shouldn't say slowly, very quickly was shattered. My close friends disavowed me. My family definitely. I was called a George Soros paid actor. Like every propaganda narrative that I have now learned over the last year and some change, I was called, and I was immediately become what I had thought was, and it just broke me down, right? So it's a little bit of that, and also too, I do care deeply. I mean, when I had seen this take place, same thing with kind of how I got my start with this whole thing and doing media. We had watched the Russians enter Ukraine live. Like we were watching the CCTV cameras. I was streaming one night. It was the 24th. It was the night of the invasion. But I was just doing some stream with my Snack Squad community, and some of my Snack Squad community who watch the news are like, "Dude, Vladimir Putin just announced he's invading Ukraine." I said, "What is that? Like, what does that mean?" So I had quickly just ended my gaming stream because I mean that's gaming. I can come back to that, and pulled up like I was, oh my goodness. And we were watching it for days live as the Russians were entering. Like there was no narrative given to me, nothing. I mean, we were watching YouTube, so I mean, you have the filter of that, maybe you can say. But we were watching Ukraine live cameras that the Russians were entering in. So a similar thing happened again, where immediately I'm thrown into this like the propagandist, or I'm the person that's lying about it all, but it's just absolute horseshit. And maybe that's why I'm so invested in that part of it, because I've been spun into it, if that makes sense. Like I used to believe the world, that the curated narrative world, it was broken for me. And then now here covering the Ukraine war again from like from simple terms, just showing you what's going on, keeping it to, just analysis if I can, like just this is the troop losses. This is where Ukraine is. This is where Russia is. Here's combat videos. This is what's happening. And even with that, they will say there's no videos in Ukraine. Where's the combat in Ukraine? You know what I mean? I'm hitting all of it right now. I know I'm kind of ranting, but that's why I care so much, I guess, about the background stuff, because me myself was so into it. And if honestly, if I didn't take myself into 2020 and go out there, who knows where I would be here. You know what I mean? And like that's why probably I'm so much more invested on what's going to happen with the garbage in the background of it all, because I was spun into it, dude, and it sucked. And getting that breaking down and having my family and friends who I thought, were my family and friends, not become my family and friends anymore, because I was repeating the truth and I was saying what was happening. And it's copy paste here with like the Ukraine war. And I'm seeing how Ukraine supporters, I mean, all over social media too, I'm seeing how they're just trying to support Ukraine because they can easily see this genocide. They can easily see what Russia is doing to Ukraine on a daily basis. They can see the cruise missile attacks. They can see the civilians being killed on a scale that none of us here I was born in 1993. I wasn't alive in World War II. I wasn't alive back during those times. So I've never seen anything like this. And we can just see it for what it is. And so having an echelon out here that's trying to make it like those that are calling the bullshit out for what it is, as if we're lying about it, just really gets to me. And I think that's why I do take some breaks when I can, but dude, it bothers me. It gets to my core. All right, that's my rant.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's oh my god! Like
I got that out.
You perfectly fit into this channel. Like for me, this is amazing. Like we need more people to rant, because on my channel I have like videos where I do like actual informative content. And then there's like videos where I just rant for no discernible reason, because I'm just feeling passionate about certain things. And that's actually like that's very true, and I agree with you. Like I mean, people were discussing, they were very surprised when I told them that like, yes, I voted right wing in my life, then I voted towards the left, then I voted again towards the right, then again towards the left, right? So I don't have any specific affiliations. Like I really like good policies, like a good worldview, and I am in a very, very stupid position because every time you say something negative, like, it's like you say something negative about MAGA Republicans, you instantly get, oh my God, you are, how did you say, wait, like a Soros sellout? Yeah.
Soros paid actor.
Yeah, Soros paid actor. Oh, that's so good. I'm gonna take
I was
that.
called that immediately.
Nice.
And it's when it was wild because again, like I had told you, like I know what that is, and I had been calling people that in my, and so to be called that myself, I was like, okay, what's going on here, dude? It all broke. It broke me. Like I completely broke down. I mean, but I guess it was for a good thing, right? I'm glad that
everything comes in experience. But to kind of finish up my thought is that, and then like when I talk about like like I think Trump had a couple of good policies, like for example Iran nuclear deal. I think that was a good deal. I think it was not supposed to exist. I think the fact that he broke it, I still believe it, that it was a good deal. Like so,
that was a good one.
Yeah. So I don't really see that. Like I don't have an attraction to one party or another. Maybe it's because I've moved to Denmark. It's like Denmark is not my country of origin. So
what's it like there?
In Denmark, it's fucking amazing. Best country in the world, man. It's like I think every country should be more like Denmark, and then we're gonna have like really amazing stuff. Just have better food. Just have better food. Oh no!
I should come there. I should come there.
Yeah, it's nice.
United States is stressful. I'm stressed. It's just
it's very like every time I read like something, it always feels loaded. I don't know, like, but that's my outside perspective. But then again, like for me, like just the kind of I was considering if I should go like to United States or not, like when I got my education and whatnot, because I didn't really speak Danish at that point, and English was the only language that I more or less knew. And I was considering either like Canada, US, whatnot. And US, when I just figured out that I need to do my own taxes, I was like, no.
Yeah, we gotta it's getting a little easier with some of the mobile apps we can do it on now, and like you can just put in the numbers and like they give you a number. But yeah, we got to do it ourselves, which it's not too terrible, but it's still like
so it's better. So it's better now.
It's getting better, but at the same time, it's like, dude, they tax us on our paychecks already, and then you got to do more tax. It's like we get taxed for taxes. Our taxes get taxed, dude.
Nice.
It's like it's
Well, don't talk to Denmark about
I love
taxes.
it. Listen, I love the United States. I love our country. I just want the best for it. I love it's beautiful here. We have beautiful states. Can't wait. I'm gonna go travel a lot this summer, I think, and see some more of our country. I've seen a lot of it, but I mean, there's definitely some gorgeous places here. But I weep for our future, and I hope for the best. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to try to do the best I can, and at least in like the media landscape of it. And I don't even like want to be like a TV type journalist. I've never wanted to. I want to do my thing and do my type of, even if it's just YouTube channel and just talking about relevant events that are taking place and trying to be as honest as I can about it, or relaying the truth of it, because it's getting tough out here to do so. But I don't want it to. I want the best for the U.S., but I just recognize that things aren't perfect, but it needs to be a fight for it needs to continue.
They never are. Like that's the same in Denmark. We have a huge problem. We don't have bike lanes everywhere, and it's a huge discussion that we need to have more bike lanes. So that's a big problem, big problem.
See, we have too many bike lanes. I think that's what it is. We're getting our bike lanes are encroaching into the center of the road now, where it's like you got a bike lane and then you got an extra lane, and it's like I'm dead.
Yeah. Anyway, you mentioned you mentioned that you're gonna not travel or travel US, but I think I might know someone who is not gonna be traveling US for a while, and.
Oof. Oof.
Let's transition to something more close.
Oof.
So what do you think? Like, where's he going? Like, how did he even get into this mess? What's your take on this?
I mean the Pentagon leaker. He's just so my take is I'm more inclined after I watched the report with his friends that were talking about it. I totally can. I mean, I don't know if I believe it 1,000%, but I'm definitely leaning towards this. Where this dude was in this unit. He was in a cyber intelligence unit of the National Guard. Like I had mentioned, he had Title 10 full time in the service, so he was doing that. That was his position. His dad was also in the Air Force, high ranking too as well. So it's like not unheard of. He had a security clearance also, right? I mentioned earlier as an 88 Mike truck driver, 19 years old, little scrawny kid, I had a secret security clearance and I was handling sensitive information. So it's just not unheard of, right? But and sharing when you read it down and you break it down, I can totally see him trying to show off to his little Discord server that he had made, like his friends challenging him in the what was it, the fucking Thug Shaker Central Discord server that they had made to
Was
do
it
this
the
BS.
bear and the pig? Was it?
Yeah, and he was OG.
Where pig was the Ukrainians and bear was the Russians, I believe.
Yeah,
Supposedly.
it was a super very. The Discord server was anti-Semitic, racist. Not it's an echo chamber, bad Discord server, right? So this dude they were talking, sharing things within the server, and his community within there challenged him, and it was like he was saying, "Yo, I got these documents, or I hold these documents," and they didn't believe him, and so they were like, "Yeah, you don't have the documents, Pixar, it didn't happen." And he's like, all right, bet. And then he just started posting all of the documents like a moron in his little echo chamber Discord server, and they were able to find him.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To be honest, like I've gave a good thought about this, like how I feel about, and I think you are 100% right on the whole situation, how he got there and whatnot. But I was thinking about whether or not he should be put in jail, or there should be a medal that awarded to him.
Oh, that's what you're. Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, okay, my bad. I'm sorry. Yes, jail. No, he's not a whistle. I'm sorry. I thought. Okay, no, he's not. He's not a whistleblower. He didn't reveal anything. No. Right? He didn't. He didn't. So I understand what you're talking about now. So he didn't present information as if like the American public are being lied to, and like this dude like revealed something like he's a fucking Snowden type, I guess, or whatever. No, Snowden. This dude needs to go to jail. He needs to be there, and he needs to stay there. He needs to. There's no reality, and I had tried to talk about it last night. That you share sensitive information anywhere. You just like don't do that at all, right? Just to begin with, just to break it all down on an atomic level. As a soldier, sharing sensitive information, I mean, I would the fear of military prison was always in the back of my mind when I was in the military. Like, do the most to not go to military jail, which you got to be like a big piece of shit and like do things like this kid did and share sensitive information in a Discord server, or get a DUI, or do very illicit drugs, and you know what I mean. That's like things you get kicked out for. You don't even go to prison for that. But like committing treason. That is a treasonous act. Sharing any type of intel, it doesn't matter. Like if you were to, even if it was like in my unit and like we were deploying, for example, and like some kid like shared photos of our travel plans on his Facebook page, just giving you a hypothetical. Yeah, you can't do that. Might not be treasonous acts. Like he might not have, I don't know, you might have to have a military court, but that's what that's going to do. He's going to be, he already got sentenced or whatever, right? I think it's 15, he has a maximum of 15 years. I think it's either going to be concurrent or consecutive for 2 charges of distributing. I can pull that up. I'll pull it up on my stream.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more. But you got 2 charges. It could be 15 years consecutive or concurrent. So that could be a serious amount of time. But the way that it's being framed, and I totally know why you would ask me that now, and you can start after I'm done, on how this dude's being framed as a whistleblower is mind-boggling to me. And not only that, but what do you think? What is your take on? Did you look into what was leaked? Were you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay,
Obviously not
all
full
right,
pack because
right,
no one has the full pack. But I was able to study some like 30 documents of alleged 100.
right.
So
Go
I got,
ahead.
I got
Go
my
ahead. Go
hands.
in.
I had a video on where I discussed like the top 5 that were with relation to Ukraine. But there's kind of two things that I wanna talk about. The first one, and I'm gonna monologue for a while. The first one was before I talk about the contents was about whether or not he should be not given a medal, but at least acknowledged that he exposed something that should never be happening because this guy was clearly acting like a foolish person, right? He created he found a loophole, and now that loophole existed. Now, would we imagine a situation where there would be more smarter actor and like an actual spy infiltrating some of the positions, and then he would have access to this level of secret information or potentially higher levels of secret information? So this is a question that will need to be asked in a lot of the security stuff on the design of their protocols and how their protocols are being checked. And I know this is something I do for a living, so for me this is a, how do you say, like a very very close subject. So I can give a very very specific critical opinion on that. But this is important because if Russians would, or I don't know, anyone would have a spy, like, because he was what, private in the National Guard. Yes, it's an intelligence wing, but it still is a private, and he was able to get his hands on the some of the documents that were marked as top secret. Firstly, then should there be reassignment of what information falls into the top secret category or secret category at all, which I'm going to talk about what's the contents. And then secondly, how the access control is produced, because apparently, as I understood, he was able to take physical copies with him home and then take pictures of those physical copies on his kitchen table, because that's how, I'm not sure if you heard, this is how open source intelligence people found him. So they analyzed the patterns on his table from the kitchen with the photos, and they found a matching pattern of the table, which is
Can't get away from anything these days.
ludicrous, like completely ludicrous.
Because geolocations.
Yeah, it's just like what? Like I was like, what? What am I seeing in this? And then to the actual contents, like, and this is where the question about like what information is secret and what information is not secret. Like, how are we overmarking the secret information stuff? And this is, for the most part, this is the problem for media and society, because we end up in a situation where we, like, at least a lot of these documents were containing information that not actually is that secretive. Mostly it was just, how do you say, raw reports. Like, for example, like some CIA heard some people, for example, in Ukrainian, not society, but Ukrainian government, having a phone call, and then on that phone call, this person expressed this opinion. Or like, this is about the battle map situation for Ukraine. You know, like, you're doing it, I'm doing it, like everyone is doing this. Like, you can get better information from the open source intelligence. But there's a caveat to that, because these protocols might just be factually old, because right now we're living in the 21st century. So a guy sitting on his ass in Denmark near the computer screen can find out which streets are Russians occupying right now on the front line of the city, and have almost a live feed of it, because it's open, like, because it's the most covered war in history, right? So potentially, the level of secrecy, assignment of secrecy, is not just been adjusted to the fact of what is possible right now to be achieved by non-secret means. So, like, what people can essentially find on their own. That is one angle. And then second angle is, if you secret everything, then the enemy might potentially never know what is the depth of your knowledge. like how much do you know, how much you don't know, right? If for example, it is never exposed which kind of conversations people are listening to, then it is never known that someone is being listened to at all. Like, though it's a little bit silly, but still, you get my point, right? So it's just more the idea that it's not the contents that are secret. It's more about what are we monitoring, like where are we having our kind of fingers inside of a cookie jar, and so on. So in that sense, then some secrecy might apply, not because of the contents, but because of the methods that it was used to receive. And then we finally get to the question of the contents. And the contents, as I already gave a huge preamble, they are not secret by itself. Like, they are basically just a description of situation with regards to Ukraine, because this is what I'm mostly interested in. But there are a couple of sensitive things when it comes to what kind of listening, for example, US does on its allies in Europe and in other democratic countries. Now, it's a kind of like a secret that, like, US is spying on everyone. Everyone knows that, but
Right.
it's a bad thing to expose it, because once it's exposed, it gives a lot of voice to the parties that say, oh, we shouldn't rely that much on US. Maybe like we're overstretching our friendship. Like maybe they don't want to be friends with us, but maybe just want to spy and control us. And all of these weird radical that we have in Europe saying is like, oh my God, you're just a puppet country of the US. That kind of nonsense. So,
Well,
yeah.
oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, just real quick to touch on it, what are your response for people that say that tightening the security on the process, like making information harder to get into the hands? Because it's common sense to me, but I'm just asking you just for your response for transparency. The people that are saying that the U.S. is going to be less transparent somehow by tightening security over these documents and who handles them.
That's a fair point, but this is just like the classification potential system needs adjustment, because on one side, yes, there was a major leak, but then on the other side, the system wasn't really working that bad before. At least we didn't know any other major leaks, right? So potentially the system is not broken. Potentially it's just an accident. But I think some revision and some checkups additional would definitely be in order, at least maybe depending on the situation in the world or whatnot, right? Full protection, let's put it like protection from idiot needs to be in place.
100%.
That's what I'm thinking.
For sure, decisions that were immediately made where the chain of command is gone, right? Whoever the command over that dude is gone. They're replaced. And it probably there was weakness in the security of the handling of the documents within this unit. There was likely lackadaisical standards within the chain of command in the unit for how, like you said, how this dude was able to bring him home, for example. It's not that it's the propaganda that they're trying to make it muddying that how could someone even be handling the documents. It's not that. It's what you had said is how was he able to just bring these documents to his house and just have them like that instead of like in a secure place at his unit where you're supposed to, like, there's at our reserve unit, we had nipper and sipper rooms. We had for those secure computers, they had their own fucking room. Like you had to use you had to have your badge, right? If you had access to the secret computers or whatever, that you would get on the SIPRnet, you'd scan it, get in, go in there, and that'd be the room where you do the secret information, right? Even if it's not like a Mission Impossible type, like nuclear codes. You're not looking, it's like just sensitive information that, is in the military that you don't want hackers to get a hold of, or like people to know troop movements, for example. We have those rooms like that. So definitely looking into that unit and where the weakness in the standard was. And obviously, like you had said, in the grand scheme of things, it's not like this is a common problem. It's not like this is happening all over the U.S. This was a one-time issue with this specific leak, but it still needs to be mended. There still needs to be changes and make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you. I propose getting one more topic on and then answer the super chats. So if you have any questions in super chats, it's time to go for it.
Yeah, send
And
them away, chat.
yes, go for it. But the topic that I want to talk about is kind of dealing with the Russian propagandists, because I've been hearing a lot. I was very, very, like, it's always fun for me because, like, I've seen these propagandists ever since, like, I was, what is a conscious age for me? I don't know, like 14 something, like when I finally started like realizing what is the world, who are the people around me, whatnot, like when I started kind of understanding
That was
some of
14
the
for you? That was probably like 22. That was probably like 22 for me.
no, just to realize that like other people have
Oh, I
interactions,
see.
like not in a sense that I've had,
I see. I see.
like
I see.
beyond like that's a whole another story about the story of my life. But the
Oh,
idea
okay.
of the fact that, like, like I'm a Latvian, like a Eastern European, so like we were the original Nazis before Ukrainians kind of took the sweet spot, because we had like a border conflict with Russia around
Hmm.
the early 2000s, and there's actually part of the territory of Latvia that Russia took away from us during that time, and from that time, I still remember a lot of these channels like calling us, "Oh, these neo Nazis in Latvia, just like looking to destroy everything Russian, like to exterminate Russian culture and whatnot." Like, and sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It
So,
does.
so with the propagandists, I was very interested to see that, like, now people like from the other side of the pond basically are experiencing this. Like, you're diving into that shithole, diving in deep, like head first, and like understanding almost like what is this genocidal rhetoric that we're suddenly hearing, and so on. And it was interesting too. I watched Jake Bro for it. I watched you, and so on. How the talking points around the propagandists have changed. And what propagandists are saying has also changed, because they have severely entered the trading phase. It started a couple of months ago when we heard first kind of discussions about, well, maybe we should consider, like maybe peace or some kind of negotiations. Maybe it should buy some territories from Ukraine. Now we hear already saying that, well, we should maybe try to agree some kind of negotiations. They're pushing again, like Lukashenko, to like, okay, time to make some peace talks, whatever. And now we also, the latest one is Prigozhin's speech that he made. I'm not sure if you've been able to familiarize yourself, but
I don't think
basically,
I've heard the new one.
long story short, just to kind of get you up, that he said that at this point we should declare that war is won, that the special operation is complete. We need to put a hold and grab the territories that we already have, and essentially freeze the conflict, end the war with what we're having. Say that we won. That's the Prigozhin statements have been so far, and I think that it's remarkable how much they're progressing in their trading stage, and I believe that this will just go down further and further. And at some point, we're going to hear negotiations proposal from the propagandists on how much they should pay back in reparations. But what's your take on it?
Completely agree. I believe that the propagandists will be talking about what Russian oblasts they're going to have to divvy up into republics and shit. That's what they're going to be talking about. The Russian propaganda just continues to move the goalposts. I feel like it's on a cycle. It's like on a rotation. Like they use different people, different times, different talking points. They'll go back to, but at the end of the day, though, through all of it, I mean, we can sit here for like an hour and go into every single garbage talking point. But they just want, like you said, they want to maintain control of the positions that they have, right? Then that's the peace. They're pushing for idiots like far leftists and communists in the United States and far right people to just be like, we want peace, just peace in Ukraine. Why are you guys supportive of the war? Because we're supportive of aiding Ukraine, right? It's just try to muddy the waters so that way Russia can keep the territories that they hold. Prigozhin, I haven't heard the newest speech yet, but I'll listen to it. And if he said that, I mean, we just want to keep the territories, that's in line with everything else that we've heard from other propagandists. And really, all it is just like a grander move of the what they did in Donbass and Crimea. Only they increased the military aspect of it. They escalated it, right? They did direct conflict with Ukraine and invaded all of the country, right? But they want to sit on these territories. That's what the peace is. The peace is, in Russian propagandist eyes and Z lovers, they want peace. They want the conflict to end with Russia to maintain control of their territories, right? So they can have it, and then Russia will be able to propagandize that whole area even more for another 5-10 years, and then invade from the territories that they have, and also likely Belarus again in another 5 to 10 years. That's exactly what would happen. It's just absolute garbage. I mean, Russia, we've gone into just the micro peace that Russia and Ukraine tried to do over Mariupol. And so many people forget that when the Azovstal plant was being defended and Ukraine was trying to negotiate getting the civilians out, the elderly women and children out of the Azovstal plant, they flew delegates to Belarus to meet with Russian counterparts and negotiate a peaceful route. So that way the civilians could exit the plant safely. And that way, I mean, it would just be the military fighting each other. And Russia didn't even obey that one. They didn't even do that. They immediately shelled the roadway or mined the roadway. The buses were hit and blown up literally the next day, the same day in some cases. So Ukraine's literally already tried to meet face to face with Russia. Zelensky's already laid out a 10-point peace plan that's perfect. He's the one that's put out the damn peace plan. Russia has no peace plan. Russia's just banking on honestly, that's why it goes back to what I had mentioned earlier.
Russia has issues with plans in general.
Russia sucks at plans. That's why they're trying to get it ingrained in Western sources and culture, so that way the aid for Ukraine ends and they can just carry out their scorched earth tactics in Ukraine without Ukraine being able to defend themselves. Right? They want the aid for Ukraine to end. Number one, they want the aid for Ukraine to stop. They want that propaganda to take over and be like, yeah, aiding Ukraine is evil or whatever propaganda that they have for that week. Evil, globalist, Soros, West, whatever the hell, right? They want that to end. They want to maintain the territory that they hold as like a participation trophy, I guess, right? Which that's just insane. The fact that I'm getting wrapped up into it again.
Yeah.
The point is 100%. They have no goal. The propagandists just want to continue to fester garbage and bullshit so that way they can maintain what they have, because they know that in this current phase of the Ukraine war, without really building up their military again, because do you think that you might have a topic for it, but the next wave of Mobics that they're going to get, the next conscripts are going to have any impact on the Russian effort in Ukraine?
I mean, it's going to be some impact because it's going to be a lot of people, obviously. But like, it's all, it's like, it's just delaying the inevitable. Because like we one of the biggest things basically on my channel when people say like, well, how can you be like so calm and whatnot, is because I see that strategically, like, there is no ability for Russians to win. They can still do damage, they can prolong, but they're literally like having a Hail Mary. Like, let's just wait for a potential situation, as you said, that when the West is going to stop supporting Ukraine. That's like their only like saving mercy, because they cannot find allies. China is saying, well, it's like, no, we're not going to help you. So we need to understand that, like, obviously some gray schemes are going to appear. Russia going to get some equipment, technology into Russia to support it. But for Russia to be actually fighting and winning Ukraine, they need what Ukraine is getting right now, only from other side. They need like echelons, like the whole, like, big trains packed with big vehicles flowing into it, Russia. That's not the same as flying in or like shipping a crate or two of Kalashnikovs, or maybe some, like, some 10,000 shells, like from Iran. There was like a big story. Iran has supplied 20,000 or something shells for Russia to fire. Well, 20,000 is Russia is firing about 1/3 of a day. That's nothing. It's like, it's nothing. Like, Russia needs like literally the whole production power of China to start working to support it. Without it, it's just going to get exhausted, because the West as slow as we are, as stupid as we are, as divided and as arguing and bickering and petty and cowardly and like all of the other adjectives, when shit hits the fan and when we smell two things, like when there's money to be made and like we can produce something and we can grow production steadily and predictably, that's when the execution is going to start growing forward. And that's the strong point of the West. Our production base is huge. And once we're going to start it rolling, it's going to completely, like, it's going to be as a ongoing wave that's just going to build up and build up and build up. And at some point, Russians are just going to drown.
It's all just Russian cope because they're just not involved in the economic deals because they chose that path, though. I mean, it's dude. It's just annoying. I mean, there's the argument there too, but it's trying to, obviously, the propaganda of like a globalist West, because Western countries have allyships so we can have better economies and better opportunities and invest in technologies, like you said, or like, you know what I mean? Like that's not a bad thing. And Russia doesn't have that. They have fucking like they have like a wish version, I guess. And they will never but it's cope. It's really just Russian cope because they're not involved.
Absolutely. And this is unfortunately the topic that we missed about like how backwards Russian technology is, like about the fact that like they're so much inferior to anything that we have in the West. Dude. Like it's a huge topic. Like let's not get into maybe next time. Maybe that's a good point to
next
start.
Time.
But the point is like people say is like, oh, but like Russia took like, you know, this whole district in Bakhmut. And I was like, cool, but what are you doing about these 4 new plants that are going to produce hundreds of thousands of shells in Finland and Sweden and Czechia or in Slovakia, I believe? Like, how is that going to help? I was like, oh, but Russia is opening 3 new factories to produce tanks. And then I checked the news, and one of the tank factories that was supposed to be producing tanks and opened in January was actually like still just ruins of an older Soviet factory. And now 2 months after it was supposed to be open, they are just now demolishing the old buildings. So now it's just a pile of rubble. It's like that. It's like that. It's like it's a lot of Russia big, Russia strong, and then they're just repeating this to themselves. And then like you get into some kind of Mearsheimer arguments like Russia great power, it can never be beaten, it's just a force of nature, and it's like it's just, you know, like a dream world, and there is no arguing with anyone that is in dream world. Like what you're gonna say is like there is no ponies, and he's like yeah there are, you need to believe that there are ponies for sure. It's like I've seen ponies, like he's gonna come. Like if you put milk inside of this dish in the forest, he will come. Like you will see. It's like, dude, like you've just shut yourself, your pants are like smelling. It's like, no, this is a special operation.
I'm fucking dead. It's just everything the Russians say, the opposite is true.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the super chats. To wrap it up. Like, do you have your own open? Like,
I don't have any yet. If you go ahead, you can start with yours.
Yeah, I have a couple, like not a lot. So the first one is, I'm gonna move it to the screen because like it's a little bit more convenient. The first one is I have from Andrew Knight. He says, thanks so much for 10 pounds. He says, sorry I'm late. I will have to go back and watch from the start later. You do that, sir, and we'll see you at any other point. Remember, any kind of questions you have, just ask it on the stream after it. I will try to address it at one of the videos.
You can at me too in the chat if you guys want. If you guys haven't, also hit the like button on the streams, on both of our streams. Like the video, subscribe to our channels, both of us, if you haven't done so. And hit that notification bell and set it to all. So you're notified every time Ukraine Matters posts a video. And also, I post a video. Also, join our Discord servers. We talked about Discord a little bit with that Pentagon leaker. Our Discord servers aren't fucking weird. We have we have awesome Discord servers. Ukraine Matters Discord servers fire. Our Discord servers fire. You should join both. Links. You have your Discord link in your description?
Yeah.
I do.
So
go hit that.
Yes. Okay. Next super chat. Thanks so much for 100 Swedish kronas. GB Sweden says, love to see the overreach between Ukraine and US in this conversation. Well, it's a proven fact. U.S. has done so much for the gain in the war. Oh, for sure. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, U.S. done a lot. A lot of the other allies a lot. My only question is like, why is it 30 Abrams, not 300? That's kind of like the whole argument as it goes. 30 Abrams, good, amazing, fucking love it. Can you make it 10 times more?
We have White Lightning says Ukraine needs to get both Tomahawks and ATACMS, conventional and nuclear both. Russia needs to be deterred permanently. Also F-16, F-18s, and A-10s. Nuclear ATACMS? What do you say to that?
I'm not sure if ATACMS. Well, I think ATACMS can probably carry, but I don't think Ukraine needs nuclear weapons. Like, why?
I don't think. Nah.
Why? I think it's just like nuclear is just complicate. Like, that's the same kind of argument for Putin. Like, nuclears don't really solve anything, and that's the same for Ukraine. Like, if, for example, we give a hypothetical situation that Ukraine starts using nukes, it's just going to complicate the situation. Like, because right now situation is very simple. Ukraine is defending. It's fighting Russia with everything that it has, and it starts using randomly nukes, despite, like, being in the right. But like, it's just why?
Yeah, right. I agree with that. Rose says, "Thank you, Andrew and Georgie. You guys are awesome." Karen says, "Thank you, Andrew and Georgie." I'm just seeing, and then just ask questions. All right. Question: The real Vladimir Putin says, Mercado, what do you suggest I do now? I think I have bitten off more than I can chew. Yeah, I think you should. I think you should come out of the bunker and just end it.
I want to give a shout out to
you and it.
Anyways, yeah, I want to give a shout out to Darth Putin's mouthpiece. Very, very important channel and a person to always listen to. Greatest military strategist in our time. GB Sweden also thanks again for another 100 kroners. No message here. Captain Hello comments with 45 Danish kroners. Says 80 Leopard 1 tanks en route to Ukraine from Denmark. Yes, for Hilve, Denmark. Someone also in chat asked me like to kind of cover the Danish topic. Is like if I can say and yes, I can. But with 80 Leopards once, I think it's great. Like, what did you think? Like, additional tanks, more tanks.
Nothing wrong with more tanks. I mean, that's why I'm like, we had mentioned the A1 Abrams going and it not being an A2, like you know what I mean? But it's like, at least it's a system and it's better than the Soviet systems that either side's been using.
T-55s.
Yeah. Would Europe support Ukraine enough without US if Trump or DeSantis in 20? I mean, you already have proof of Trump trying to fleece Ukraine for political opponent information. So I wouldn't. I mean, I don't think so. No, I think it would hurt.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, absolutely. I'm not sure about DeSantis. Like, I'm not sure about his politics, like, so I don't know what to say. But Trump, like, he already openly stated that the first thing he would do, he would try to appease Putin in one way or another, or how he says it, I'm going to make a deal for sure. So,
which means land.
Yeah, it's like, it's basically, so pressuring Ukraine to give up land, that will just ruin the relationship of US with Ukraine
100%.
And by proxy with the countries inside of NATO that are staunch supporters of Ukraine, staunch supporters. So like Finland, probably Sweden by that point, I'm hoping. Denmark for sure, because Denmark supports Ukraine very much. And obviously Baltics, Czechia, Slovakia, Poland, of course. So it's going to again damage the position of United States on the world stage. Why?
Fully agree. Chase Maddie says, hello, fellas. Wanted to say people keep downplaying the importance of Bakhmut, but I think it has been very important in keeping Russians away from Sloviansk and Kramatorsk to keep them as functional HQs. Thank you. I do. I mean, I agree 100%. It's what it's became, and also a funnel for the entire Russian offensive. I mean, Russia's tried in Vuhledar. They've tried, but obviously that's a viral meme of how Russia did in Vuhledar, and they're not doing anything else. They've committed their troops solely in Bakhmut and trying to take that city for a propaganda victory to muddy the waters of how the Ukraine war is going. But at the same time, yes, it's definitely become like a battle, a front line in front of those rear cities. But also keep in mind that there's a nice sizable hill between Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, and Bakhmut to the east. The Russians would have to go up to nearly 200 meters of hill before they get to, you know what I mean? And they haven't, looking at the Russians and their efforts north of Bakhmut, they've done nothing in weeks now to the very north. They've been stymied there. Thank you for the chat.
Thank you so much. GB Sweden, oh my god, it's completely on fire today. 120 kroners. As a drummer, I need to make a D-roll and a special pretty long one for the subject discussed. Love it. I don't know what D-roll is. Are you okay with music? Yeah, I'm not sure what a D-roll is.
I don't know what that is. I'm not that.
Well, whatever it is, I hope it's good.
What do you do, dude? So I don't know what Eurovision is. I have no idea what that is.
You don't know what Eurovision is? Oh,
no, dude, help! I'm sorry, I don't know.
Eurovision. Well, how do I put it in like short? It started essentially as a music competition, and it turned in a cultural phenomena, more like where one time in a year we have mostly coming up kind of stars on their local stage in Europe. They come up on this national competition where people that watch it, they're voting for the songs that they like. And the best songs, they kind of win and they get promoted and so on. It's a very huge phenomenon. Like my wife is a big fan of Eurovision. I am a okay fan of Eurovision. Starsky, I know, likes Eurovision. It's a thing that on its own. Like you should watch the Eurovision movie. It kind of.
I want to check it. I'll check it out.
Watch Eurovision movie. It's with Will Ferrell, I believe, and it's amazing. Really good.
Wow, dude! What am I doing over here, huh? I'm asleep. What do you favor? That was a super chat, by the way. Who do you favor in this year's? Because I don't have an answer. I have no idea what it is.
Finland.
I'll find out.
Finland, 100% Finland.
People were saying drum roll. What does that mean?
Drum roll. I don't know. Well, he's a drummer, so D-roll I would guess mean like a drum roll. But I still don't know what a drum roll is. Like, is it like something like a pizza roll only with drums? I don't know.
That I don't know. People are spamming that.
I'm actively ignorant, so
I've been in. I mean, I try to spread out and read into other things, but this has taken a lot of my consciousness around Ukraine. Roman Trokshcheshmrim. I totally messed that up. On leave in Kyiv and picking up gas masks. Oh, Roman. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. Roman is on leave in Kyiv and picking up gas masks. Says Russia is using chemical weapons. Also heard fundraisers for gas masks. Is there any proof that is going to happen or happen? Chemical weapons. What do you got for that?
No, Russia doesn't have chemical weapons on their balance. So if there's not going to be any kind of large scale use, and the small scale use is possible, like for example they're using tear gas bombs, but that's about it for now, because Russia doesn't have any kind of large scale agents. Can they be developed? Yes, I mean, like we know the history, but overall it's the same problem, maybe to a lesser scale, but the same kind of issue with the weapons of mass destruction. Does it really solve the issue? Does it really provide enough benefit for them to use actually the chemical weapons and then complicate their position in this war even more? Because Western powers still have the space to escalate. They just don't do it willingly.
Literally, I mean, that's like, dude, listen, the F-16s and the air power alone would be just a Fuck.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna get that.
Imagine situation. Russia uses, like, I don't know, these like sarin bombs or whatnot, like exterminates hundreds and whatever, thousands. Like, well, let's drop the fact that in Mariupol, they exterminate tens and thousands of people already with no need for any kind of gas. But imagine that they would do horrible effect, and then it's like, okay, now we're supplying Ukraine with like a fleet of F-16s. Well, fuck. Like, I still think that F-16s are going to make it in Ukraine eventually.
I do too.
But it's just going to be a game changer, just because Ukraine can maybe not get the full air dominance, but it will completely, almost fully negate the Russian air factor.
Gone. That'll be taken out. And also not just the F-16s, but remember the Prime Minister Sunak said that they're going to look into UK stocks and about I already looked into the UK capabilities. They could send some Typhoon jets.
Yeah. Typhoons, like, I've heard that they're okay fighting like anti-air. But again, I'm not an expert. Ask Dennis. He's an air guy. He can explain you this, like, because he's a pilot. He's into this stuff. I'm into, like policies, like, and stuff like that.
And I know, like, the ground force stuff.
All right, couple more. John Richards, thanks for £4. Just a nice emoji. Thanks for that. Then Marv, thanks for $20. Me and Mercado are so similar, except my process was slower. Grew up super into the Fox bubble, then grew up super into the Fox bubble, then grew up. Then I was a healthcare worker in COVID, and now Ukraine. Cut me to the core, having that world fall apart. Slava Ukraini.
Yeah, that's an experience, to tell you that, but I think it's a healthier one. I'm far more healthier, I think. I mean, I'm doing way better for myself. It's almost kind of like, I mean, you lose people and you realize people that you thought were your friends, and it can suck at first, but if you just get through it and you stay solid and stick to it, you'll be all right through it, and you'll actually develop better friends, and you realize who solid people are out here and not fake people. You'll learn that.
Yes. And last one that I'm reading today, guys. So if you're having a super chat, I'm gonna maybe answer you sometime later. But thank you so much. So Carson Larrymore says, I watch both of your channels, sad to know that there are still people across the world who can't see through the Russian bull propaganda. Thanks for trying to show the truth. Hope more see it. Word, good man. Word.
And a couple more for me at the end. Okay. I'm just going to end with two. Just Bendy missed a good amount adjusting to walking with Crane, Slava Ukraine, Jose and Ali know about my condition. Okay, thank you, Bendy. 100 and okay from Shirley, thank you. And then Barry, do you know Furlane? I heard you mention Starsky. Furlane?
Furlane.
No, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, Gary. Props for choosing the quote red pill and shattering your worldview. My roommates are still convinced it was Antifa had to move out. Oh, okay, you're talking about something else. All right, thank you guys again. That's it for me. All right,
so Kesa, also thanks for 50 kronas. Thank you so much, guys, for me as well. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for cooperation. Huge thanks to the modding team, guys. You're doing an amazing job. Like, without you, this channel would have fallen apart. Ali said that we should talk, and obviously we will. But and obviously, huge thanks to today's my co-host Andrew. Please visit his channel, watch his content. It's amazing.
And thank you guys again for all tuning in. Please check out Georgie's channel. Thank you to our mods again for helping connect. Starsky too, I think, was a good bridge. I was just watching that stream that day. I was just tuning in, and he was like, oh, Ukraine Matters and Mercado in the chat. Okay, that needs to happen. So I was like, okay, I guess it's going to happen. Starsky deemed it. Yeah, and here it is. And I hope that we can continue this. I mean, I'm down. I'm open. Saturdays are fine. If we can, you want to do this?
It doesn't even need to be this. Ideas. Let us discuss, guys, and we're gonna get back to you, and I will post everything. Join our Discourse. We're gonna post the news there if something's gonna happen. I love you all, guys. Slava Ukraini, and I'll see you next time.